Final Destination Bloodlines makes you wonder, can you actually beat death? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh and this is going to be my review of Final Destination's Bloodlines. This will be a no spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the film, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. In this review, I'm going to be doing a quick summary of the film, discussing my thoughts, and then giving the film a rating, and that will be it. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into my review. So this is the sixth film in the Final Destination franchise. This movie follows a woman by the name of Stephanie Reyes who has been having a nightmare about the same tragic event that happened decades ago. As she tries to figure out why she's having the same dream over and over again, she realizes her family's connection to the tragic events in this dream she's having, and she uncovers the harrowing truth that death is at her family's door. So firstly, let's talk about the cast. So first up, we've got Caitlin Santawana as Stephanie Reyes, Tio Briones as Charlie Reyes. We've also got Raya, and I'm gonna just say Kay because I don't want to mispronounce her last name, as Darlene, Richard Harmon as Eric, Owen Patrick Joyner as Bobby, Anna Lore as Julia, Alex Zahara as Uncle Howard, April Telek as Aunt Brenda, Tinpo Lee as Marty Reyes, Tony Todd as JB, and then lastly we've got Breck Basinger and Gabrielle Rose playing both Iris, with Breck Basinger playing Iris in the past and Gabrielle Rose playing Iris in the present. So firstly, I actually really enjoyed this film. I have not seen any of the other Final Destination films, so I kind of came into this film not knowing much about this franchise, but I will have to say I have seen clips of some death sequences from the other Final Destination franchises, and I have to say that this movie continues the legacy of gory deaths in unusual ways that has been established by previous Final Destination movies. As far as the cinematography goes, I think the cinematography here is perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything bad with it. It doesn't bring anything new and it doesn't really do anything bad. So for me, I think it's perfectly fine as far as a horror film's cinematography goes. Now, as far as things I liked about this film, I would have to say that I really liked the death sequences and their use of CGI and special effects. I think they're done really well here, and I think that they're done in a very realistic approach, and it's very gory, which is typical for a Final Destination movie, but I have to say that they look really good in this movie. I also really like the opening sequence of this movie. It launches you right into the action, and it essentially fills in the story for you just a little bit. It gives you a little bit of backstory and context as to why the events that are happening in this movie are happening and what led to them. And then finally, I also really liked the plot/story of this movie. Again, I haven't seen any of the other Final Destination movies in their entirety before this one, so this is my first full Final Destination movie that I've seen in its entirety. And I have to say that I really like the story and the plot here. I think it's a good premise. I think the story is really good and how it shakes things up by, instead of it being a group of friends as per other Final Destination movies, it's now centered around an entire family. I think that's very unique, and I really like that premise for this movie's story. Now, as far as things I did not like about this movie, number one for me is going to be the ending. Now, the ending is by no means bad. I personally just did not like it. I personally was just really upset at the way this film ended, just because how the story moves along. I thought it was going to end completely differently, and I thought it was going to end in a much more positive direction, but again, by no means is the ending bad. And then the other thing that I did not like about this movie was the pacing. I just thought that it was a little bit off at times, especially when we were dealing with something like a death or something like that. I feel like there were just way too many inconsistent time jumps between a funeral scene to the next scene, or we would go from a character's death to a funeral scene, and it just felt like there were too many time skips, and the pacing just felt a little rushed around then, because it felt like the family didn't really truly process all the grief and trauma that came with certain characters passing in the movie. Now, while I was preparing my outline for my review of this movie, I learned that Tony Todd, who is an actor in this movie, he unfortunately passed away in 2024, and this was actually the last movie that he filmed. Tony Todd has actually been in almost every other Final Destination movie. I didn't know this going into the film. I thought he was just a new character, but he's actually been a recurring character in a couple of the other Final Destination movies. I feel like the way he went out in this movie and the way his character is treated and honored in this movie is very respectful, and I really like his character. And even though the character he plays in this movie has a very short scene, it's done very well and it's done very tastefully, and it just brings this very wholesome energy to the film that I really appreciated. And so I really like how the filmmakers handled this entire situation with this actor's unfortunate passing. And then another thing I learned while researching this film was that there should, I believe, be another Final Destination movie coming out after this. None of them, except really the first two, are truly connected. They're more of an anthology series where it switches to a different group of people from one story to the next. And so I'm really curious as to what they're going to do for this next and upcoming Final Destination movie, especially because in this one, again, it's a different premise here, because instead of it being a group of friends, it's a entire family essentially. So I really like that aspect of this film, but I'm definitely curious as to what they're going to do with this next Final Destination movie and what new direction or what direction they're going to take this story in. Now, as far as the characters in this movie, I liked every character in this movie. I didn't really dislike any character. The only character that I did get slightly annoyed with was the character of Julia. I just found her to be a little bit annoying at times, but I'm sure that's how her character was meant to be written. So that is just props and praises to the actress who played her, because she did a really good job here, because I actually felt annoyed at this character. But other than that, I think every character in this movie is fine. I feel like they fit into the story very well. And again, I really like the premise of it being centered around an entire family instead of a group of friends. Overall, I think if I had to rate this film, I would give this film a solid B. I think it does a really good job continuing the themes and tropes and traits associated with this film franchise that made it so popular in the first place. I think I really enjoyed this film if you like horror movies or supernatural horror movies, or if you have liked any of the other Final Destination franchise movies. I feel like this will be right up your alley. And again, I feel like it's a good continuation of the franchise, and I feel like it does a really good job continuing the themes and characteristics that have made this franchise so well loved and so popular. But that is going to conclude my review of Final Destination Bloodlines. As always, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you plan on going to see this movie? And have you seen any of the other Final Destination movies? That is going to be it for today's video. As always, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye!